Today I'm going to show you how to draw this simple frog. You'll need a piece of paper and a pencil to begin with. The first thing you're going to do is place your hand at the top of your paper. I started mine about a hand's width down, so I'm just going to kind of make a small little mark where the bottom of my hand goes. That way I have some room for the top of my frog, because I'm going to start with his mouth at the bottom of my hand right here where my pencil tip is. Okay, so at that spot, what I'd like for you to do is to draw what I would call kind of a football shape with your pencil. Now you're going to notice that I didn't quite finish the top of the line for my football. I left a little bit of space from here to here. The reason I did that is for the frog's eyes. So at the top of that football that I just drew, I'm going to go ahead and circle around and make eyes for my frog on both sides. And those eyes are going to touch right in the center. Just like that. Okay, then I'm going to draw the pupils of my frog's eyes. So on this side, I'm going to give my frog a pupil. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, trying to get them to be about the same size. I'm even going to do a little white spot in the center of those. Just like that. Okay, now on the top of my frog's eyes, I want to thicken those up just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pencil and draw kind of a circular shape around that eye. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite eye. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is give my frog a mouth. My mouth is kind of a sideways mouth. It doesn't quite go all the way around. Okay. I'm going to look down here at the bottom of my frog's face. This is what I'd call his chin. And off to the side of the chin, I'm going to draw a candy cane shape. So I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm going to curve it around kind of like a candy cane would look. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side, but I'm going to make that candy cane go the opposite direction. And those two candy canes are going to form the legs of my frog. I'm going to slide my frog up just a little bit so you can see as I draw his feet. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is draw some bigger candy canes. So I'm going to come here on the side of my frog's cheek. I'm going to draw another candy cane that comes all the way down and ends where that first candy cane was. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Remember, my candy cane is going to end right where that first candy cane was that I drew. Okay, so now I'm ready to draw some feet for my frog. So for his toes, I'm just going to draw a line out, and then I'm going to put a circle at the end of the line and bring that line back in. There's his first toe. I'm going to do the same thing for the second toe. A line that comes out, a circle at the end of the line, and then bring that line back in. Here's the third toe. Once again, I'm going to draw a line coming out, a circle at the end of the toe, and a line coming back in. Now, his last toe is going to dip off to the side just a little bit. So this one's going to have the line come out to the side, a circle at the end, and then that line's going to come back up towards the base of my candy cane that I drew earlier. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to give my frog some toes over here. Every time I draw that line coming out, I'm just going to put a circle at the end of the line for his toe. So I want it to look fairly similar to the other side, but it doesn't have to be exact. And then remember, on this last toe, I want it to kind of point toward the center of the frog. So this one's going to come off this direction just a little bit. All right. Now, you're going to see that my toes end, and I need to close off his tummy. So I'm just going to draw a line to connect those feet. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is give my frog a heart. Now, you guys don't have to do that part if you don't want to. I just wanted mine to have a little bit of color there. I'm going to do some curves around the tummy just to kind of show where those legs go. And then the last thing that I want to give my frog is a fun tongue. So I'm just going to come up here by the mouth. I'm going to curve a tongue up into the sky. Frogs like to use their tongues to catch flies. And then I am going to have to come back and erase the lines that are in the center of my tongue. Okay, I drew kind of heavy with my pencil so that you could see it on the camera. I always suggest that the first time you draw yours, you draw light until you know it's right. That way, if you have to do any erasing, it's easy to erase. Now, on my sample frog that I did earlier, you're going to see that at the top of his tongue, I actually drew a fly for him to catch. That's a simple thing to do too. So if you'd like to draw a fly, this is what I did. I started out by drawing an oval. Okay. In the front of the oval, I gave it 2 circles for the eyeballs. And then I just put dots in the center of those. Okay. I made kind of a rectangular shape and erased the line for the front of my fly's face. And then I gave my fly a wing on this side and a wing that tucks into the back. Now you're going to notice that the lines are inside my wings, so I went back and just erased that line so it didn't show through. There we go. Now I wanted my fly to be hairy, so I just gave him some little lines to show where that hair was on him. He's kind of got like a furry, hairy body. And then I gave him some legs. Now, not all of his legs show. I know that a fly would have 6 legs, but some of them are on the back side, so they don't show up on this side. So on mine, I gave him 3 legs on this side, and then 1 kind of peeking out from the other side. Okay, but the others are kind of tucked back there where we don't see them. Then I just made some dashed lines to make it look like my fly was flying through the sky. And those lines kind of come down towards the tongue. Now, once you get your frog drawn the way that you like, your next step is going to be to come back and trace over all of your lines with a black marker or a Sharpie. Okay, you're going to want to do this on all of your pencil lines. And that will take just a few minutes. Once you've traced all of your lines, there's a few more things you're going to do with your Sharpie or your black marker before you color. So one of the things that I did is I went ahead and I traced my pupil for my eye, and I colored that part in with the black Sharpie or the black marker, whichever you have. I'm going to do the same thing on the other eye. And then on the heart, I actually wanted to add some line pattern with mine, so I traced my heart, and then I went around it a couple more times, just so it has some extra line. I even put a few little dots on the inside of mine for detail. Now, once you have everything traced, you're going to be ready to add color. I made my frog green. Yours doesn't have to be green. You can choose the colors you want. But one of the things that I want you to work on with this project today is blending and mixing colors. You can see on my frog that I used some lighter green for the cheeks and then faded it into some darker green shadow up here by the eyes, and then once again some lighter green over here on this cheek. So I'm going to show you some techniques for blending the colors. When I did my frog, I used a few different shades of green. This one's called Mountain Meadow. This one is called Jungle Green. And then I also used a yellow green, which is much lighter, like this one. Okay, so for the tummy on mine, I started out with my yellow green, and I just started coloring in the tummy section in the center, working my way towards the outer edges of that tummy. Now I knew when I got to the outer edges of the tummy that I wanted it to be a little bit darker. So what I did is I took another shade of green. This one here is my Jungle Green. And I just kind of started using that around the edges. But when I was coloring with it, I actually colored right on top. See if you can see where I'm coloring at. Right on top of some of that yellow green, that lighter green that I used earlier. So it's okay with crayons to color one color on top of another color to blend them together and make new shades. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing over here on this edge with my jungle green, but I'm actually going to color right on top of that yellow green to kind of mix the colors together just a little bit. Okay. Another place that I did this is on the toes. I took the lighter yellow green, and I colored just a little bit of light color on the toes. It doesn't matter where you put it. It's just going to kind of be a highlight color. I did that on each of the toes, and then I came back with my darker green and kind of colored right over the top of it and around it. And then I used that darker green to come up the rest of the toe space. So I'm going to go around the circle part of the toe where I have that lighter shade, and then I'll bring the darker shade of green up along the foot. So when you're all done with the toes, it should look like it has some lighter and some darker tones to add some blending. Okay? So I'm going to let you use some of those skills that you have learned today to create a frog similar to this one. Yours may not look exactly the same. It may not be the same colors, and that's okay. But I'm eager to see what you can create based on what I showed you today. Don't forget to post your pictures so that I can see what you made. Have fun creating.